Look at this map. Between Iran and Oman, the Persian Gulf narrows into a choke point exactly 34 kilometers wide. Through this gap, 20 million barrels of crude oil pass daily, alongside 20% of global liquefied natural gas and a third of traded agricultural fertilizers. On February 28, 2026, a coordinated U.S. and Israeli military airstrike killed Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Within hours, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps began transmitting warnings over VHF radio, forbidding commercial passage. Ship tracking systems across the region immediately went dark. The global supply chain operates on a centralized structure. When you violently sever its most critical geographic artery, the entire world economy suffers an immediate heart attack. Shutting down international waters doesn't actually require a massive conventional navy. Iran started by deploying hundreds of heavily armed, high-speed patrol boats directly into the shipping lanes. Then came the hidden area denial weapons, explosive sea mines scattered beneath the surface, paired with autonomous drone boats hunting for commercial targets. To compound the physical threat, electronic warfare tactics like GNSS jamming and satellite spoofing blinded modern navigational instruments. The commercial sector reacted instantly. War risk insurance premiums soared so high that ship owners could no longer afford the coverage, effectively grounding 2,000 vessels and stranding 20,000 mariners. The threat of low-cost asymmetric violence, multiplied by commercial financial risk, is enough to defeat global trade logistics. The United States government reacted swiftly. President Donald Trump demanded that NATO members and China step in to secure the waterway. When that failed, the U.S. military initiated a massive manual blockade of its own, intercepting vessels and targeting Iranian coastal ports directly. This created a dual blockade scenario. The U.S. Navy successfully blockaded Iranian shores, while Iran simultaneously held the wider Gulf hostage from international transit. The world's most important trade corridor transformed into an entrenched, militarized no-man's land, where neither superpower could assert total control. Desperate to bypass the blockage, Gulf states began diverting oil over land, pumping it through pipelines to the Red Sea port of Yanbu. At sea, the U.S. and Indian navies attempted military escorts, guiding small handfuls of cargo ships through the hostile waters. The crisis even drew diplomatic anomalies, like Ukraine offering its specialized expertise in asymmetric naval warfare to help carve out safe maritime corridors. China took a completely different approach. They bypassed the violence entirely by negotiating an exclusive political agreement with Iran, securing safe passage strictly for their own fleet. These workarounds and military escorts can save individual ships, but overland pipelines and diplomatic carve-outs simply lack the capacity to replace the sheer volume of a fully functioning marine choke point. The local military stalemate immediately triggered a global commodity shock. Brent crude oil prices spiked much faster than in any recent global conflict, peaking at exactly $126 a barrel. With Qatari gas supplies trapped in the Gulf, Europe desperately increased its imports of Russian Arctic LNG to keep its energy grids online. The shockwaves hit tertiary industries next. With the shipping lanes closed, 1/3 of the world's helium production was suddenly inaccessible, forcing immediate industrial rationing. And then came the agricultural time bomb. Millions of tons of urea and ammonia fertilizers were trapped just ahead of the spring planting season, threatening the 2027 global food supply. Modern energy crises operate as massive economic multipliers. When the price of basic global transit spikes, it triggers massive downstream inflation, critical resource starvation, and global food insecurity. When Asian importers and Gulf producers hemorrhage cash on this massive global scale, the lost wealth migrates to alternative suppliers. This chart shows exactly who filled the supply vacuum. While nations like Iraq and the UAE suffered massive revenue declines, the United States and Russia experienced surges in their fuel export revenues, jumping by $50 billion and $15 billion respectively. This immense global transfer of wealth, the downstream inflation, and the paralyzed fleets all trace back to a remarkably small physical space. It all comes back to a single 34-kilometer gap of water. Despite our hyper-advanced global economy, modern human civilization remains a hostage to the raw, unchangeable physical geography of the planet.